Okay, good afternoon everyone. My name is Doug Porter from Salesforce.com. I'm the European Product Marketing Manager for the Service Cloud. I'd like to welcome you all this afternoon to this session. The focus is rethinking customer service in the media and comms industry, and obviously within the media and comms breakout track here. First things first, safe harbour. I'm sure you've probably already seen this about 50 times already in the last 2 or 3 days, but there we go. I'll let you read that at your leisure on our website. So yeah, today's session is really focusing on one of our great customers here in EMEA, or over in EMEA, should I say, EasyNet, and we have Chris Stenning here who will be presenting the EasyNet story today. It's really a fantastic story about how one of our customers has taken the Service Cloud and really built their entire business process end to end, from from lead capture through to the actual billing of their customers using the Service Cloud from Salesforce.com. So we'll really learn and understand how EasyNet chose Salesforce and how they've built out their customer management and fulfillment system on the Service Cloud, taking advantage of the Service Cloud and the Force.com platform to do that, and really provide themselves with a single view of their customer, which they can access in the cloud. So in short, a really good example of a customer that's been leveraging the cloud to adopt rather than adapt and ensure fast delivery and excellent customer service. So the session I'll break down into really obviously about an hour or so, 5 minutes introduction now that we're just coming to the end of, 45 minutes to really hear Chris and EasyNet's story, and then we'll open up the floor for about 10 or 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Chris Stenning from EasyNet.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to be here to talk to you about customer service. And there are 2 reasons for that. First of all, it's something that I'm personally very passionate about. And because I work in a telecoms company, it's something that as an industry, we're not very good at. So actually, any improvements that we can drive have quite a big impact and something that we can really differentiate ourselves on. I'd like to start by explaining I'm not technical. I'm the managing director of the company. I'm not the IT director. I have IT people who build this, or who did build this for us. But I did sponsor the project. I did identify that we needed to do this, and I have sort of driven it through the complete execution. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not from around here, so hopefully you'll make sense of what I'm saying. I'll just start by telling you a little bit about EasyNet. We're a leading UK small business ISP. And we sell to businesses that are typically between 10 and 250 employees. And in the UK, that's quite a large proportion of the businesses. And our main competitor is BT. We're actually formed from a strategic review of the EasyNet group in 2007. And EasyNet decided that it really wanted to focus on global corporate market, selling a combination of managed hosting, managed telepresence, and managed networks. And we split our business in 2. We formed EasyNet Global Services and EasyNet Connect. And EasyNet Connect's aim was really to capitalise on the network we'd built in the UK and in the Netherlands. As part of that split, and the relevance will become clear in a moment, EasyNet Global Services ended up with something like 80% of the revenue, but about 20% of the customers. EasyNet Connect took about 20% of the revenue, but 80% of the customers. When I started the business, we started the business in early 2008, we had 80% or a very large number of customers sitting on a set of systems that were really built and had been invested in for bespoke corporate needs. Really not very good for the volume market at all. One of the great capabilities we had was a network that, through our parent company, BSkyB, which is the largest sort of satellite provider in the UK market, actually covered 70% of the UK's businesses. So we had a great opportunity, but no way to really leverage and monetize that network. And BSkyB are owned by News International. We'd also had a very substantial SDSL footprint in the UK. Now, as I said, I'm not technical, but I'm told that by somebody I had lunch with that these are quite impressive statistics for our rollout. So please don't ask me any questions about them, but I'm told that they're pretty impressive. As I said, I sort of really identified the need for this project, and it started off really as a complete CRM and ERP project. And we were very clear about what we wanted, really, before we'd engaged with any suppliers. And Salesforce was just one of those. And the first thing that we identified was that we wanted a single system that looked at every aspect of our business from lead through to the bill or through to the ledger. And when I first started running EasyNet Connect in 2008, I spent a bit of time with our operational people. And what I saw horrified me. We had a lot of what I call swivel chair integration or alt-tab integration, and I'm sure you have this in your business as well, where people were entering data and we were using sales logics for our sales team. So they were capturing all the sort of sales element of a deal. And they were then filling in a paper lead or paper sale form or contract. It was then being entered by the provisioning team into something called CDS, which is our provisioning engine. And then they again were then entering it into Tetra, which was a version of Sage, which was our billing engine. And then when we actually came to support the customers, we were supporting them on something called Help Desk. So there was what we really saw was swivel chair integration. And the business was really operating in silos. I also wanted to get one view of our customer relationship with us. So that what I could also see from when I sat with people was that if there was an issue that was coming into the sales person, they had no visibility of what was happening with the customer's billing. They had no visibility of any faults or issues that they had. And I wanted us to be able to really provide the right level of service from wherever that query came into. We were very slow to react to customer demands, and we were creating what I call a lot of waste demand. Waste demand is where you don't get things right first time and you create more work. I recruited a new IT director, bright young thing, very clever chap, and he really sort of set the three bottom objectives. And those were to buy rather than build. And I think he came in and took a look at what we had and realised that actually IT was not our core competence. We'd grown organically, our IT organically, we'd grown it very much around a corporate market. And we identified very early on that there were other people who could do this far better than we did. The second thing he wanted to do was to adopt rather than adapt. So rather than trying to take something and change it, we would actually really take something off the shelf and use it ourselves. And being a fairly clever chap and fairly switched on, he'd identified that software as a service was the next big thing, and could see that the evolutions that people like Salesforce and their competitors had made had actually made it the right time for us to sort of get into this. And our real focus for this was to better serve our customers and improve the service, and that was the real driver through all of this. So if you're technical, this may excite you. This was our system map before we met the guys from Salesforce. You can count them all. There's about 70 different systems there. I'm afraid that horrified me. Just, some of the things that were problems from that. We had a lot of those systems had been built by people who had left the company. They hadn't documented them very well, but they were so critical in the running of our business that if they went wrong or they broke, the whole thing would sort of come crumbling down. And we actually still rely on one of these systems today, a provisioning system, and we launched a new service about 6 weeks ago. And we were going through all the final testing, and suddenly we had this showstopper. And it was because there was, in one of these boxes down here, there was 1,000 lines of code that had been built to actually set a certain process. And the reason, when I sort of delved into it, and I said, well, why are there 1,000 lines of code? Why is it so complicated? It's because the person who built it left 5 years ago, and it was built in Perl script, whatever Perl script is, and there was nobody in our business, in the entire group, who understood Perl script. So rather than adding and changing it, they just added another line of code and another line of code. And somehow, over the last 10 years, this 1,000 lines of Perl script had appeared. So, it's from a sort of business continuity perspective, it's very concerning. We had a lot of challenges in the process. We had, there are 70 boxes on there, 70 different legacy systems. And to get to one view, not only was that a problem in our running our business, but actually moving to a one-box solution was a problem, because effectively we had lots of data sources. Which is the master record? What do you rely upon? One of my salespeople said, and it was sort of played out when I sat with him, I have to go to 7 different systems to take somebody from a lead through to a sale. And they were spending more time on the paperwork than they were on the selling, which any of you that run a sales organisation will know that's not the way to work. And that swivel chair integration I spoke about at the beginning had really caused quite a few issues, and some of them just were invisible. So clearly, if we were entering data into different systems for an order, there's the opportunity for order rejection. Okay, so you get human errors. People make mistakes. People can't type. The issues were then affecting our book-to-bill time. So we were making the sales, but we weren't actually getting the revenue billed, which as the MD is a real problem for me. And something that we found both within the rollout process, but actually at the end of the process, is that a lot of those human errors had actually had a big impact on our costs and our revenues, but they were very, very hard to spot. So I'll give you an example. We have subscription broadband service where people would pay a monthly fee, and we would regrade that service, or they would move premise. So we would set them up with a new service on a new account at the new address. And then somebody, through human error, would forget to cancel the old service. But we were continuing to bill at the old address. We were continuing to accrue the revenue. And without the joined-up systems, it was very difficult to spot that. Interestingly, on the first few days that we went live in July this year, my operations director came rushing into my office saying, "It's crap, it doesn't work, there are customers who aren't on the system, what's Richard done?" And we very quickly got to the point that actually the master data we'd used was the billing system. And the reason that some of our customers weren't in Salesforce is because they were never in the billing system. And they'd phoned up for support, and we hadn't been billing them. Now, before we had this system, we would have just merrily gone on providing support and doing all those great things. But because they weren't in the system, the support team couldn't then provide the support, and we identified very quickly. So we probably found 10 or 15 customers in the first 5 days of go live that we hadn't been billing. And believe me, we fixed that very quickly. I also felt that having really tried to differentiate ourselves on service, we'd really, really improved the way that we'd worked. But we'd sort of hit a glass ceiling in that because we didn't have a joined-up customer experience, we really couldn't take things much further. Of course, as you know, life is never simple. So having identified what we needed to do, we then had a few challenges. Due to other things that were happening within the group, I was set a challenge of reducing my headcount by 10%, which is never a pleasurable thing to do, but often a problem. Clearly, my philosophy is always that you spend spend the company's money as if it was your own money. So I always like to do things at a lower cost as possible. But having seen the problems that I'd inherited, I wanted to keep a lot of the expertise in-house. I didn't want to pay a load of expensive consultants to go away and take all the knowledge and then go and take it somewhere else. So we had to do the implementation internally. We had a team of 7, 4 permanent and 3 contractors. And interestingly, they were all changed out from before we started the project to actually when we started the go live. So we had a completely new team. Because I'm very demanding and I want everything now, a typical Piscean, or so my partner tells me, we had very aggressive timescales. So we started talking to Salesforce, to Cast Iron and to Webcom in September and a variety of other partners. We started to build, I think, in December or January, went through user acceptance in May, and then my IT director foolishly set himself a target of having this to go live on our new financial year of July the 1st. And as you know, once you've set that, you cannot move the start of your new financial year. So by hook or by crook, we went live on July the 1st, and we changed everything out, all of our CRM and all of our ERP. And we also had to update all of our entire business processes in parallel, and I think that was probably one of the main learnings from the whole project. And I think if I could, could ever give one piece of advice to anybody embarking on this, and it sort of hit me halfway through this project. Actually, so many IT developments I'd seen in the past had come from a great idea, or a great piece of software, but they'd been developed in the IT department. And they hadn't got all of the ducks and hadn't got all of the elements lined up. And I think the reason that we were successful is that we engaged all of our people right from the very start. And I know when the Salesforce guys came in and presented, we took a university room in the centre of London, and we had our operations people, our sales people, marketing, procurement, product management, myself, and we all sat through all of the vendor presentations, and I think we grilled everybody. But the most important thing is where we had everybody in the business fully engaged in the whole process. The people, by the way, in the Superman T-shirts were our super users, and that photo was taken on the day of Go Live. The other thing was, it's all very well having the people engaged and having the right technology, but of course you need your processes right. And we took this as an opportunity to completely change out all of our processes. And I was talking to somebody earlier who said, well, actually, you know, we don't know what our processes are, and we've done the people bit, we've done the software bit, but we don't know what our processes are. We had no documented processes at all. So we had a very good business analyst who went and sat down with the people that did the work and documented them and said, okay, what do you do? What happens next? What do you know? And they actually sat down with the people that did the work and documented the processes. Okay, and we used that in the project. But of course, as I'm sure everybody who's out there today will tell you, you need the right software as well, and I'll leave you to make your own decisions about that. So did we get what we wanted? Well, I'm pleased to say I think we did, because I now have a system where all my leads, all our contacts, all our opportunities, so all the traditional Salesforce things are all in one place. But we also have all of the services that our customers have. So every single product that we've sold and all the different attributes of that, all in Salesforce. We use it for all of our cases, whether they're provisioning cases, so setting up a new service, and all of our support and help desk people generate cases as well. We don't use Salesforce for billing. We use a different billing engine, and when we looked that the billing capability wasn't quite what we wanted, but we have all the billing transaction summaries in Salesforce as well, and I'll show you how that works. We have all the history, and we have all the network configuration. So every element of the customer relationship is viewable through Salesforce, and I'm very proud of that. And that we met that objective. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the work we did with one of our partners, Webcom. Webcom are out, I think there's probably a few of the guys here, Alex at the front. And one of the things we identified very quickly was that we needed to start in the right place. So we needed to make sure that we configured every product that we'd sold in the right way, so that we improved all of those sort of issues that we'd had in the past, but actually so that we took that notion of a product, created a service, and then we could do things with that service. So we could associate cases to that service, we could cease that service, cancel it, and so forth. So we wanted to have a sort of a product configuration engine, and we looked at a number of different providers and chose Webcom. And this is something that my product management team manage themselves. They've got full control, full access rights. And they have set up all the rule-driven processes that define our product. What this means is that we only sell what we can provision, and we only quote what we are able to sell. And it means that we have very clean product configurations that flow through Salesforce. And I'll show you how that works in a sec. So this is one of the Webcom screens that's embedded within Salesforce. So once the salesperson has an opportunity, they then fire into Webcom, and then they effectively go and through here configure the product. And all of these drop-downs and yes-nos and all that good stuff are all things that the product management team have set up themselves. And you can see on the right-hand side, those are all the different things that you need to do, or bits of data that you need to get before you are able to progress through with a quote. Okay? So before, salespeople, I'm sure there are none of you in the room that would do this, would sort of scrappily fill in a form and throw it over the wall and expect somebody to provision it. You can't do it with this. You have to get all of the information that we need. You have to get it from the customer. And we do this before we've actually sent the quote. So what we do is we sort of configure the product the way that the customer wants it, and we define the way that it sort of is configured up front. What Webcom actually enables us to do then is to create a quote, and that quote is then emailed from Salesforce to the customer. The customer then, and our legal team are particularly happy with this, the customer then clicks on an email to say that they accept the terms and conditions that are attached as a PDF, and then that response is then tracked in Salesforce. And our in-house lawyer was very happy that actually we've got the audit trail for the customer contract, so there's no pieces of paper. Once that has been accepted, that quote is then turned into a service, and the service is the thing that we then provision. Okay? And all the attributes of the service, as I'll show you in a moment, flow through. So this is our services. So you can see this is one of our resellers, and these are all the services that they have. So you can see there's a 2 meg shore stream. It's a Battlebridge Lane in London. There's a service number. We know it's active, so we know it's billing. We know what the annual amount is, and we know who the end user customer is. And there's quite a bit of detail that sits behind that service as well. And all of that comes through a quote. Because we've captured that data up front and we know exactly what attributes any particular product or service has, we're then able to record all the configurations. So this is a 10 megabit EtherStream connection. We have recorded the bandwidth. We know the circuit ID or the reference number of that particular line. We know which DSLAM or which part of the exchange it goes to, and various other data. And what we're in the process of doing at the moment is integrating through this and through something called cast iron, where this will automatically come into Salesforce, and then the provisioning will happen automatically through XML. So our holy grail is that salesperson takes order, or even better still, customer places order on portal, into Salesforce, through cast iron, off to provisioning system, order gets provisioned, router gets sent, nobody touches it. Okay, that for me is my nirvana, and we are very close to that now. There was one other element I talked about, and that is that we don't use Salesforce or anything for billing. Am I allowed to say the word NetSuite? Maybe not. We use NetSuite for our billing. But what we've actually been able to do using cast iron is we've been able to take billing summaries and stick them into Salesforce. And we've done that through the cast iron that we got through the App Exchange, and also some of the Salesforce API. Okay, so my salespeople, if they have an issue with a particular customer, people don't tend to pay their bills because they've got technical problems. Well, we can see all of that data there. Also for our partners in our partner portal, the first thing they see on their screen is how much they owe us, because partners are not the best people at paying their bills. So I think I'd safely say this was a pretty major CRM project, and I think to call it CRM is probably an understatement because it was CRM and ERP. And I have to say, while I didn't do it myself, I'm told that the Salesforce CRM, Webcom, and the cast iron were pretty quick and easy to implement, and we had the relevant assistance when needed. The internal team were very motivated. I'd like to think that's because they sort of had my full support, and that all of my fellow directors' full support, because we were all sick to death of trying to run a business where we had no control and no visibility. So we gave Richard and his team a full support in doing this, and we made it a particularly big issue for the business. I think probably the issues that we had were really with the data quality and the migration, and that was because actually when you've got a load of rubbish, it doesn't magically become beautiful, clean data when you throw it into a new system. And I think that's probably one of our learnings, that actually you do need to start early. I think Webcom really helped us with one of the things that we really wanted to achieve from this. And I have a bit of a thing about waste demand. I don't know how many of you have sort of got operational backgrounds, but there's a theory in operations around waste demand. And that if a customer says to you, this is what I would like, and you give it to them, that is a value demand. So you've created value in what you've done. If the customer says, I'd like this, and you foul it up, or you need to pass it to 3 or 4 different people in your business, or you mess it up first time, that's effectively a waste demand. It doesn't create any value for you, doesn't create any value for your customer, it's just a cost in your business. And what we wanted to do was get rid of all waste demand where we possibly could. And Webcom really helped us with that. So our order defects went from sort of 10, 15% down to 0. There was no way that salespeople could put an order through unless it met and they'd identified all of the criteria that we wanted. Our book to bill significantly improved because we had all the right information to be able to provision the service. And most importantly, from my perspective, we were able to get the bill out quickly. Because we weren't passing our customers around the business anymore, and that if they did phone support and it really was a billing query, the support person could see that. Our net promoter or our customer satisfaction improved significantly and continues to improve. We had no mis-selling. It's a standard product. The standard terms, yes, we may negotiate a bit on the price, but we didn't have any mis-selling. And a 7-fold improvement in sales systems. So instead of 7 systems, we went down to 1. There are some other benefits as well. Because we're effectively using the Service Cloud as well, I have to say, after what I saw yesterday, we will be using the Chatter Cloud or the Collaboration Cloud or whatever it's called very, very soon, because our intranet is something that's bugging me at the moment. It's a load of rubbish. Because we use the Service Cloud as well, our service lifecycle is managed in the same place. And what that's enabled us to do is to really transform the way that we work. My operations director is a very mature guy, I have to say. He's about 55. He's had a very long and distinguished career. And he comes from the manufacturing background. And it's quite refreshing to work with somebody in a telecoms company who isn't an operational telecoms person, but comes from a different background. And he's been able to change the way that we run our case management from very much a sort of forward production method, which is, you pass it down the production line. You have first line, second line, third line. It's not very motivating for people. And it's not very enjoyable for customers because they have to re-explain to various people. And we've moved to the Volvo production method. And I don't know how many of you know about how Volvo work, but Volvo have a team of people who build every car. They have no production line. It's just a big group of people who are completely focused on building that one car. And they own that car until it goes out of the factory. And we've been able to implement that same process in the way we do our provisioning. So one person owns that order right the way through the provisioning process, and they have all the contact with the customer. And also in the way that we deal with our technical cases. Again, they're owned by one individual right the way through. And we've been able to move from the customer keep phoning us 3 or 4 times for updates to proactively going back to that customer. And the employee engagement that we see from our support teams has gone up from something like 47% to 67%. And I think that's largely with the way that they now work. A bit of a side benefit really is communications. Our emails are far more consistent now. There is no opportunity. People don't tend to have the best spelling and grammar in the world, and we can stop that. And there are very standard triggers as well, and there's a few things that I've picked up in the last day or so that the guys will have a long list of work to do when I get back to the office. I think for me, because I'm a bit of a control freak, visibility that I've now got is amazing. My team were very spooked about 3 weeks ago when I suddenly learned how to do dashboards and write reports, because now there is nowhere to hide. If I get a bee in my bonnet, I can find it. I know what's going on. And so visibility in some of the dashboards that we've got have really driven good practice. So having leaderboards, seeing who closes the most cases has really driven best practice, and it's really smoked out the bad practice as well. So we know the people who are not performing. And we've also been able to implement new products very quickly. We implemented a new product, a fibre-based service, in about 4 hours. We put it into Webcom. We knew pretty much how the provisioning would work, and off we went and did it. And it was done very quickly. We created the quote and so forth. But actually, launching new products not only has been very quick, but for a control freak, I've been able to have dashboards built that show me exactly what's going on. So this is a service that we launched recently. I know how many have been sold. I know what the net gain benefit has been. I know what the pipeline looks like. I can tell the difference between new and existing business, the opportunities by stage, by salesperson, what the pipeline looks like, and how our revenues have changed. And as you can see, the purple line suggests that we've actually really been able to change the way we work with this particular product. Somebody in my career about 5 years ago said something very profound to me. It's always stuck with me. And that is that you get what you inspect, never what you expect. And I think that's a very profound thing. And I think it's probably something that the Salesforce people could build into their sales pitch. So what next? Well, we have launched our partner relationship management or our partner portal. I found it's a very interesting feedback. We struggle a little bit with the way we work with our partners. We probably don't put as much resource into it. I think maybe we've given it to somebody too junior in the organisation to run with, so there's a few things I need to go back into the office and change. And our customer portal goes live early next year. We're getting very close now to our nirvana of having completely seamless provisioning and ordering where nobody touches anything unless it goes wrong. So we are integrating with our external provisioning partners elsewhere in the group to automate interaction. So literally you can order a line online or a broadband service online and it gets provisioned Nobody touches it apart from the man who puts the router in the bag and sends it off. So that's our nirvana. We're also looking with Webcom at how we can integrate third-party catalogues, so the HP catalogue, how we can get that in, and also how we can use this for more complex tenders elsewhere in the group. So I think it's always useful to sort of give you, what our key learnings were and what our takeaways were. And this is not an IT person speaking. This is the MD saying this is what I think we did well and what I think we learned. I think top-down sponsorship is essential. I think I mentioned I have the nickname of Sauron. I don't know if many of you know the Lord of the Rings, with the all-seeing eye. And that's my nickname now because I can see everything. But I think unless you've got top-down sponsorship, and I've got a friend who works for Aon who I was talking to yesterday, and she said, I really need to somehow replicate that in our business. So top-down sponsorship and top-down engagement is really, really important. We were very lucky that we had the opportunity to recruit a very talented IT director. And if there are IT people in the room, I apologise, but turkeys don't vote for Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever it is. And you may find that you need to change your IT people out. While I recruited a new IT director, we actually found that there were lots of old world people that we needed to change out. I would encourage you to start your data cleanse early, especially if the quality is poor. There is a bit of a school of thought that sometimes it's better to get, if it's all in different places, it's very difficult to clean in different places, and actually getting it in one place can make it easier to do the cleaning. So don't assume it all has to be perfect before it goes in. Also bear in mind that data goes bad immediately. Okay, people change, people lose their jobs, people move offices, so you need to continually be on top of that. And again, that's much easier to do when it's all in one place. You can do it yourself if you have the right people. You don't necessarily need to use expensive consultants to tell you how to do it. If you have the right team with the right attitude and the right approach to change, then you can do it yourself. And I think from our perspective, because we built something that was off the shelf, something that was plug and play, we actually had more time to spend thinking about the business processes and how we wanted to change those, about the data quality and about engaging our people. So all of our management time and management effort didn't go into the building of the service. Actually, that was done for us, and we could really focus on the things that were more important to our business. And going back to that triangle that I presented earlier, if you want to do it right, not only do you need the right software, and I'm sure there are people who will tell you that it's the right software, and I will agree that I think it is the right software, but you do need engagement by all your people, and you need to get all of your processes right. Thank you for your time. That was all I wanted to cover.
Thanks, Chris. That's great. Any questions from anyone on the floor from Chris's presentation? No. Far away.
I was just curious what kind of feedback you've received from your customers.
Well, we use Net Promoter Score. I don't know if you're familiar with Net Promoter. It's basically it's a standard way of measuring customer satisfaction, and you take the people who are your promoters and the people who are your detractors, and you find a score that's in the middle. And the feedback has been very positive. And especially for support and provisioning, since we were able to change the way that we work, and we were able to move to case working, the sort of Volvo model rather than the Ford model. Our Net Promoter Score was actually being done by an agency. We were paying them probably £2,000 a month, or is that $4,000 a month to do that work, and they were doing the calling. But a lot of that cost was actually in the reporting. So we are in the process of integrating click tools, so that the surveying will be done by one of these agency people straight into Salesforce. We don't have to pay them to do all of the measurement and stuff anymore, because not only will it produce all the fancy reports, but more importantly for me is that instead of us getting the individual feedback, which we do act upon, it goes straight into the record. So when any of my people talk to a customer, they will know how satisfied they are in advance, or they'll know the particular issues that we need to deal with. So it's a very useful thing to do, and we've had very good actionable feedback in the past from people saying, I think you're too expensive, or I think your support sucks, or your billing's rubbish. And we always act on that, but actually to get it all back into Salesforce so that we can then run reports, we can then target those customers, I think makes it far more powerful. So it sounded a bit of an evangelist type answer, didn't it? But yeah, the feedback's been very positive.
In the middle.
So it's really impressive that you actually got to the point whereby you got 0 order fallout.
Yep.
So my question to you is that when you look back at it, right, I mean, considering what you've achieved, how much of an advantage has that given the company versus your competitors in the same market?
I think, when I sort of picked this business up, we knew that we had a huge opportunity with the network. The biggest local loop network in the UK, but we had no way of monetizing it. Okay. What we've now got is we've now got much slicker processes so that I can really crank up the volumes without cranking up the headcount. Okay. My business is very profitable within our group. Actually, the way to kill it is to crank up the volumes and try and grow it too quickly. Because in the old world, I would have had to have thrown more people, and I would still have had those issues, and I would still have had revenue being recognised that didn't exist. So it puts us in a much stronger competitive situation because we can respond more quickly, and actually we can market with more confidence that actually when we do get more volumes, we can deal with them in the right way, when we can grow. Interesting, I was sitting in here yesterday and I noticed that BT, who are one of our major competitors in the UK, are actually looking to use Salesforce as well. So I don't know whether it's because they're copying us, but... No, not at all. In fact, quite the opposite, because the way that they used to work is they had sales logics, and they would track their leads and opportunities and all that good stuff through there, but it wasn't linked onto anything else. So once they'd made the sale, they then had to go and complete a paper order form. I think it was done in Excel, and it spat out a paper order form. And then they had to enter some data in another system, and if it was a regrade, they had to go and enter it in another system. So they actually spent a lot more of their time doing the admin and less of their time doing the selling. So actually the sales team love this because it means that, not only do they have to spend less time chasing orders up, if their customers phone them, they can say, well, actually, I can see that your order is at this stage in the provisioning process and the due date is X. But actually they can spend more time selling, and less time doing the paperwork. So it's about time I put their targets up, really. It's an interesting one. I mean, we have, one of the things we have got, and I've never seen it before, but I sort of inherited it, and my marketing director and I were a bit sniffy about it, is we have a lead management person. She's a very clever girl, and we were like, well, why do we need lead management? Why would you have that? And she's actually the gatekeeper for our sales team, so if they want to enter a new record on, then it has to go through her. Now, it seems like a bit of an administrative nightmare, but actually it works really quite well, so that we do ensure that we capture all the right information and get it on.
So she's going in and qualifying the leads?
She qualifies the leads.
Well, what about, I'm not talking about leads, I'm talking about actual accounts, a customer, just whether they're entering in an opportunity or things like that. An email address, getting them to actually enter in the email address. You may not have it as a required field, but getting them to do it and getting them, what kind of incentive did you give them? Did you hit their pockets, their pocketbooks, and say, if you don't do this, you don't get a commission? I mean,
there's probably two or three answers to that. First thing is, my marketing director is also the sales director, and so she has a vested interest in making sure that data is correct, and she beats them up. The second thing is that because we can all now see, myself, my sales and marketing director, the sales manager, the team leaders can all see exactly what their pipeline is. If they're not putting stuff on there, and they're not, if the salespeople are doing the business, and I've got a couple of people who are awesomely successful, you don't tend to, question their behaviours. But when you have got somebody who isn't doing the business, the first question is, well, where's your pipeline? Oh, well, I don't enter it. Well, if you've got no pipeline, you're not going to get any business. Yeah. So you can, because it's very visible, you can actually then start to encourage the right behaviours or mandate the right behaviours.
And you don't have anybody in sales operations manipulating any of the data or the pipeline to do anything with it?
No. We did one thing. Our pipeline grew by about a third overnight, and that was largely because they found it much easier to add it on. I have to say, though, because we sell to small businesses, we don't have a pipeline that maybe our global services part of the business would have, because our deal cycle is very short. So a customer may phone up today and say, I'll take it, bang, crash, deal done. Or it may be that it's an opportunity that maybe they want to talk to us about in 3 months. So, the concept of pipeline is quite mixed for us. But no, if you see it, now we can see it, we can go and, as I did at 7 o'clock this morning, I was on the phone saying, why is this, why isn't this here? And why, the sales aren't doing very well this week, and why isn't, well, they're all in the pipeline. Well, the pipeline's not great, It's the Sauron thing, you can see it.
Any kind of knowledge-based integration for tech support?
Not yet. It's one of the things that I picked up on Monday. I've been writing an extremely long list of things that my team are going to do when I get back. And knowledge base is one of the things we haven't done yet. There's a lot of knowledge out there, and we've got lots of, because we've sort of grown up, we've been going for 15 years. And one of the great things about our support centre is it's been there for 15 years, and some of the people have been there for 15 years. There's a lot of knowledge, but it's all on wikis and all sorts of other places. So one of the things I'm going to push the team to do when I get back is to take that and put it into the knowledge base, because the customer portal, we should be able to present that information to customers as well as, So it's a bit of a mind shift change, but, with these things, you can't do it all overnight. You have to do it in bite-sized chunks. And people have to sort of accept the system before they move it on to the next stage.
You already have customer self-help.
Not really, no. Not really, no.
Forums?
Sorry?
Do you have user forums?
No. These are all things that are sitting on a piece of paper somewhere in my hotel room that will get action next week. So, yeah, certainly the knowledge-based thing, it's a bit of a no-brainer, really. We should just do it.
Any more questions, anyone?
We cleaned quite a bit in the old systems, and that was for sort of other reasons. We knew that there was some sort of manually. So it was a bit of a slog, a bit of hard work to do that. But we sort of did it for other reasons, because we knew that there was some phantom revenue that didn't exist and things that we had to tidy up. But we sort of got to the point where we realised that actually it was easier to clean it in situ when we moved it, because first of all, it gets out of date very quickly. Secondly, you know what the data state is you want to have in the future, and actually it's better to, even if it's a bit messy, get it in and then clean it, because then you've got the relationships between all the different pieces of data. For example, I have my provisioning data my sales system would have all the name and address of the customer. The billing had all the name and address of the customer. Provisioning data had the name and address of the customer. Probably not quite the same, because 2 or 3 people had input it, and they'd done that, and then they'd done that, and then so actually cleaning it in the 3 places would have been counterproductive. We just needed to get it in and then do the cleanup. We had some clever IT people who helped as well. We took most things over. We had a bit of hysteria, I think, the second week in. And the sales team realised that we hadn't taken all of their notes from Sales Logics in. We had a management team had a bit of a discussion about it, and we came to the conclusion that actually they were just trying to hang on to what they had. So we gave them the opportunity to do a bit of cut and paste for a few weeks. They probably spent 2 days each doing that, and then we moved on. The same is true of historic help desk tickets. Yes, we could have taken everything in, but it was a balance between how much do you want to spend importing data that you're probably never going to look at again, and then how much do you really need that data moving forward. And I think there were some systems where we took a just after we went live, we took a data dump and we stuck it on a web page. And I think if anybody wants to see it now, they can go and look on the web page or in the database or something, but it's not updatable anymore. You could spend the rest of your life trying to get every single piece of data you've ever collected about your customer moved across, and spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds doing it. But you have to draw the line somewhere.
Okay, any more questions at all before we wrap up? No? Okay. Chris, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have finished slightly early, which is, gives you a chance to hit the campground or take a coffee before the Colin Powell's keynote, which I think is about 4:15, I believe. So in about 45 minutes' time. So thanks again for coming to the session. Thank you.